Despite what the name might indicate, Hitman 2 is actually the 10th game in the long-running Hitman franchise, and it comes as a direct sequel to the 2016 reboot, Hitman. I was always interested in playing the 2016 game, but I kinda hated how they doled out each mission, where you had to wait like a month before they released the next level. I thought this was obnoxious and restrictive because most people, myself included, would have liked to just play the whole game at once, instead of waiting for them to release each piece individually. Thankfully, Hitman 2 is a complete game at launch with lots of bonus features, which prompted me to go right in and buy this one. And I'm happy I did because it's a really fun game. While story has always taken a bit of a backseat to the gameplay in the Hitman titles, the story of Hitman 2 is actually pretty decent. It's not great, and it certainly doesn't drive the game along or leave me dying to find out the next clue, but it was interesting enough to tie it all together. It's an origin story for Agent 47, and it ties directly into the events of the 2016 game. Knowing the story from that game certainly helps, but it's not a big deal if you don't, because, well, like I said earlier, it's not that special. Still, the slideshow-style cutscenes and good voice acting make it actually worth paying attention to the story bits. Well, except for when it's the evil organization's turn to talk. That was usually when my brain shut off because I couldn't really take them seriously. They sounded like you went up to one of your parents and said, "Hey, can you be the bad guy in my short film?" Seriously though, there is a noticeable drop-off between the main cast and then the other bad guys who just show up every once in a while to talk very vaguely about very vague things. Overall though, it's mostly solid, especially considering the type of game that it is. Your job in Hitman 2 is to track down and kill many different targets throughout a variety of locations and scenarios. Just like in the 2016 game, Hitman 2 puts a big emphasis on player freedom, and it really encourages players to experiment with different killing methods. This is where the game really shines because there are a ridiculous amount of ways you can go about completing each mission, and the great level design helps enable this freedom. Some killing methods are more simple and others more complex with lots of wild and crazy scenarios. I love how much room they give you to just mess around and see what works. I mean, they basically tell you some general info about the targets and then say, "Alright, you're good, go kill some people."
No! I guess there's a time on it, like bullet time or whatever. Oh, that's tough!
Next up, Robert Knox.
My personal favorite way to play was to go into each mission with the mindset of completing it in one go. Meaning, if shit hit the fan, I wouldn't reload a save. I would just try to improvise and play the rest out as best as I could. This led to some great moments where I had to quickly make something out of nothing, and I really enjoyed the challenge it presented. And since there are so many ways to go about eliminating your targets, I spent a lot of time replaying the levels so I could try out different approaches. The stealth mechanics are also pretty good, with Agent 47's instinct vision letting you see through walls and the wide array of disguises giving you a multitude of ways to sneak around. And while the AI still has the usual stealth game AI, I did notice that the NPCs felt a bit more aware of what was happening, meaning that if you walked around acting like a complete dumbass, they would usually notice you and go report you to the police or security. It's far from perfect, but it certainly puts some more pressure on the player to be careful. Also, there was this one moment that I really wish I recorded, but it was honestly one of my favorite moments in gaming in quite a while. I was in the middle of subduing someone so I could use his disguise when some other guy noticed me strangling him. Obviously, I had to shoot the witness, but when I did that, I completed my objective. Now, keep in mind, this mission was to kill 2 targets, and find the third target hiding around the level. They don't give you the third target's face, so you have to search around for clues to track him down. Unless you're me, and the random witness you shoot was actually the secret target. I couldn't believe it, and I think that example really speaks to how wild and fun the game is. My only complaint with the gameplay would be that some of the story-based ways to kill your target could get a bit predictable, as a lot of them usually led to you sabotaging some piece of equipment which would then accidentally kill them. The scenarios around the killings were still cool, but several of them had pretty similar outcomes. Well, yes, I mean, they would all end in death, duh, so obviously I'm not talking about that overall outcome, but you know what I mean. Hitman 2 also offers a ton of side content if you ever want to switch things up. There are small mini-missions where they set you into a small portion of the level and have you kill targets with specific weapons only. There's also a co-op sniper mode, as well as some online stuff. Overall, Hitman 2 offers incredibly fun and engaging gameplay, with tons of variety and replayability. Now, Hitman 2 is not the best looking game of the year, but it still looks pretty good. The character models are certainly less than stellar, but the textures and world design kind of make up for that. The lighting was also really well done, and there were many moments where I felt the lighting perfectly captured the tone and theme of each respective level. The real standout, however, was just how diverse the game is. There is a lot of depth and verticality to each location, and plenty of small areas and secrets tucked away in every corner. Each level functions as its own separate open world, and there is a lot to see and do. They really did a great job fitting in a ton of NPCs to make the world feel alive. And most of these NPCs have their own jobs or routines that they follow, and this helps to not only make the world feel more complete, but it also gives you a chance to study and learn and then plan your approach accordingly. The music, on the other hand, is not quite as interesting. I mean, it's not bad by any means, I just think it's pretty standard. It was never bothersome and didn't get in the way, but it doesn't really do too much to stand out. However, I don't expect a game like this to have an incredible soundtrack, so it's not an issue at all. So, I pretty much mentioned all of my issues earlier in the review, but I guess my only other issue is the performance. Now, I'm running it on a PC with everything on high or ultra, and I mostly got around 80 to 100 FPS. But when walking through tall grass or areas with lots of foliage, the FPS would drop, sometimes as low as 40. I also experienced quite a bit of crashing, which was pretty annoying. And I also had one moment where the game did not want to autosave for the entirety of one mission. After a restart, it never happened again, but I still think it's worth mentioning. So yeah, this game is really fun. I had such a good time messing around with the different playstyles, and it was just a blast. If you're a fan of stealth games like I am, this is definitely worth picking up, and if not, I still think it's worth looking into. There are some issues here and there, but the game was consistently fun, and there wasn't a single level that I thought was weak. It's filled with tons of great moments, and it has a lot of replayability.